All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Combat Radio. This one should be super fun because we got one of the best to ever do it with us, Mr. Geoff Tate. Jeff, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing good. Sun's shining. I'm in the woods in Montana. Things are looking great.
I was asking if you were at the winery this morning, but Montana looks just as nice.
Yeah, it's a whole
You
different atmosphere here.
are you there a lot, Montana? Or is this a
I
tour
am,
stop
yeah,
for you?
I
Yeah.
am a lot here. My wife's family's from here. In fact, we're just right outside my wife's family's property. But we have this crazy thing that we started several years ago called Backstage Pass Travel, where we
Hmm.
take people on like week-long uh, holidays, and this week it's Montana. And so we
Nice.
have 30 people showing up today for a week in the trees and in the mountains. It's going to be great.
Well, that kind of jives with my first question. But before we get going, I want to point out for the audience here that you're not only one of the best to ever do it, but you've also been a hero and gotten involved with my daughter's work for the Children's Hospital and Social Services. You signed some guitars that auctioned off that helped a lot of kids. And I want to remind everyone we got a hero here this morning. Um, but what is it like with these backstage trips? Like, I was going to ask, what's it like waking up in the morning and be like, yeah, man, I'm Geoff Tate. I'm going to go make some coffee. But what is it like for these people to experience this with you?
Well, I make them coffee oftentimes. Yeah,
So
it's
they get
crazy.
it.
It's a, I, we started doing this and it was so much fun that we have continued it now. And
Mhm.
we've expanded it and we take people to Ireland. We have 4 weeks in Tuscany, which is fantastic. We have Montana, we have the Pacific Northwest, we have Germany, we have France, we have another trip in Umbria in Italy, and we have one in Crete in Greece. And
Nice.
they are just action packed weeks of sightseeing, fun, music. There's music all the time, every day, from me and my bandmates. And on this trip in Montana, we have the bass player John Moyer from Disturbed. He's coming in for the week and going to be singing songs around the campfire tonight and
Mhm.
entertaining people.
That almost sounds like a surreal moment, right? Like for some of these people to sit around the campfire with you guys just letting it rip. You got to send me the booking information because I want to
Yeah,
get in on this. We should do like a journal, like an NBC sort of on the road with journal. See what it's like.
it
Um,
is crazy. I have to say, especially when we're hiking like here we do a mountain hike that ends up at this pristine ice cold mountain lake, and everybody strips off their clothes and jumps in, and it's
I wanted to
amazing.
actually ask you. We were having a conversation about you a couple days ago here at NBC because you're one of these singer songwriters that people really can visualize when they're listening to. And all your work and all these heroics. Have you ever thought about doing any soundtrack stuff?
Soundtrack.
Yeah,
Uh,
composing for films and TV.
well, we did some work on a film Arnold Schwarzenegger did called Last Action Hero several years ago,
Yeah.
and we wrote music with Michael Kamen, who's worked with us in the past on other projects, and we did music for that, and that was incredibly satisfying. I have to say, because I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I probably would be more interested in that at this point in my life, um, simply because I'd like to sort of curtail my touring a little bit,
Yeah.
because it's I enjoy touring quite a bit and I love playing the shows, but it is getting more and more difficult to do it at my age and to keep that intensity up, for that length of time.
Yeah. And if you can do something from, say, Tuscany, it's a tough argument to beat that, right? If you can compose something from,
Yeah.
it's like, But because we were talking about innovative singer-songwriters who've just done exceptional work. And for some reason, your name clicked into the conversation. I said, "Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to actually talk to him this week." We'll see how he feels about that. So there's some possibilities brewing for you, buddy, here at the studio. We'll have to circle back on that. But do you listen to, well, Michael Kamen, for example, he was kind of a larger than life guy. Was he easy to deal with on that front, or was he kind of demanding?
Always musically demanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, was a lovely man. He passed away several years ago now.
Yeah.
One of the, I would say, one of my musical inspirations. Actually, I learned a lot by working with him. He he was just a wealth of musical knowledge and experience, and he um, he was a character. Above all else, he was a character, and it came through in his music. I think it really translated that way. But musically, he would push you. Like for instance, we were working on this one section of the film, and he had a vision in his head of what he wanted it to sound like, of course, and he was pushing me to come up with something that pleased him, and it took a few times, but I finally started getting um, an idea of what he wanted, and as soon as I was close, he recognized that, and he would work with you to get you to that place, which is a real talent to be able to do that, with people, and
Yeah.
sort of guide them and to accomplish what you're hearing in your head, getting them to do that, that's really, really, I think, difficult to do. But he came about it very naturally, and maybe it's because of his vast experience with working with orchestras um, and writers too, having to change notes on the fly. And there's a part on the end of the song called Real World that we recorded with him, and it's an oboe melody, and it's beautiful. And he did that in one take. We were in the studio and we needed an ending for the song, and he went, "Oh, I got it. Get me my oboe." And his assistant got his oboe ready, and he went out there and he just heard it in his head, played it in one take, and it was perfect. I mean, everything, the nuance, it had a retard where it slows down at the end, and it's very tricky to perform something like that. And he just did it without even breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
Everybody in the studio was just in amazement that he just heard it and did it.
You're probably sitting back on an oboe. What is this lunatic? But then it just works with some of these guys,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm
Well, he heard the instrument in his head. I need the oboe.
yeah, that's such a good.
Bring me that oboe.
I love how you look to the sky like there's some kind of divine, like he's either asking God to like suddenly make one appear. But I think you're a great choice for a collab for something of that nature. But do you have soundtracks like you sit back and you go, "This is a great soundtrack"? Do you appreciate these kind of things, being who you
Oh, I
are
do.
as a musician?
Oh, I do. Yeah, when I hear it from other people, and I see it how it works in the film.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a real talent to be somewhat transparent in what you do, uh, so that the music doesn't step on the scene,
Mm.
but also you want to enhance that scene to help push the emotion of the scene, for people. And at least that's the goal, I think, that you
Yeah.
try to achieve.
Well, you're a singer who can literally blow the doors off a hinge like a SWAT break-in. I mean, like you have exceptional vocal talent. It's like a barrage of awesomeness. And I'm sitting back thinking of all the great things you've accomplished musically, like where did some of this stuff come from? Like you're a kid from West Germany initially, right? And like I wondered, like, what would do you take inspiration from like the moment the wall came down or these significant things? Like what gets into your head to create these incredible soundscapes?
Well, I discovered music when I was about 9 years old. It really hit me. And of all things, it was this song by Jefferson Airplane, um, that became kind of a radio song at the time. I think it's called "Don't You Want Somebody to Love," and it
Brilliant.
had this guitar that was just, I don't know, it got me. It really impressed me. And I told my mom at the time, I was 9 years old, I said, I want to play music. How can I play music? I want to do this. And so she got a piano and set me up with the piano in the house, and I just went crazy. I I learned improvisation on my own, and then I started taking lessons, and I learned classics, and I just couldn't be stopped. I was so into it, right? And that just has always stuck with me. The the things you can accomplish with music. It's such a powerful, powerful medium, and it's really just only limited by your own imagination. You know, whatever you dream up, you can do. Especially nowadays, it's so much easier to get your ideas out and construct something of real quality very easily, which is brilliant for a musician to have that at your fingertips. You know, it used to be you had to it took days and weeks and months to make a record, you know, and now it can be so spontaneous. And I love that. I just love that. But yeah, I think to answer your question, I don't know.
I was actually going to compliment your taste because I had to grow up listening to the Red Octopus album by Jefferson Airplane, and I kind of rebelled against it. I heard it so much in my parents' house.
Uh,
You know, I'm like, because it's got that Miracles track that's like so wonderfully beautiful, and you're like, oh, just like it's like it gets to a point where you're like, I have to hear this again. But
yeah,
actually funny that you mentioned them just briefly because the Hells Angels said that was one of the toughest bands they ever had to deal with. Isn't that
really.
funny? At Altamont, like all those guys like got into it with them and like were throwing punches. The guitarist, what is it? He just passed Cantor, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
Paul Cantor. Yeah.
so they wrote all these wonderful songs, and then I guess there was a scrappy nature to them behind the scenes at times, but definitely a good choice to get inspiration from. Somebody to Love, one of the all-time great rock and roll songs. What is left for Geoff Tate to do?
Well, I tell you, I'm just enjoying life. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I enjoy traveling and going to different places and playing my music. And I haven't I haven't written anything in a while, and I'm feeling the need to do that. You know,
Yeah.
I've got so many songs in various stages of completion, and I literally opened up my studio over the last couple of days and started making a list of all the music I have that's unreleased, and oh I have like 3 hours worth of music, you know, that I haven't released yet.
Yeah, right.
So I think I might focus this year on finishing some things and putting some new music out.
Are you at peace with things with where you're at? Do you
Oh
enjoy
yeah,
life? Yeah.
I really do. I really enjoy life. I'm very fortunate and very blessed. I I'm in love with my wife. We've been together for 30 years, and we
Wow.
have wonderful children. We have 4 grandchildren now, and that I see regularly, a few times a year actually. Um, I love my job. Yeah,
Did
I'm
you
pretty happy.
did you always love it? I've heard guys that were like came through like in 70s, 80s, 90s refer to it as kind of like being on the Bataan Death March with labels demands and industry demands, and it kind of burned some people out, and in some cases even like tore musical units apart. Is it better now on your own terms without the mechanism, or was it better then when they kind of handled things and gave you sort of an itinerary to or a target list? What do you prefer?
Well, they never did that with me or when I was working with Queensryche. We
Right.
didn't have that kind of experience. The label was there to sell what we created, and they
Mm-hmm.
never ever got involved with the creative process of making music ever. A couple guys made suggestions, really asinine suggestions at various times. Like one guy thought that we should write songs like Kim Carnes. Do you remember her?
Betty,
Betty
yeah, of
Davis Eyes, you know,
course,
and he
Betty
says
Davis.
this is a hit song, and you guys should write like this.
Classic. And
Yeah,
that
another
person's
guy wanted
probably
us to,
running Warner Brothers now.
yeah.
Another guy what?
Another guy wanted us to emulate a band called Zig Zig Sputnik, who was famous for a minute back in the early '80s. It's weird, you know. They're grasping at straws most of the time, but we didn't really listen to that kind of advice. We just followed our own muse and did our own thing. And when we wrote a record, we presented it to the record label, and it was in their best interest to sell it, so they did, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have to say, in our 30-year career as Queensryche, we had 3 different record companies that went out of business within the first 10 days of us releasing a record. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
You put out your record and the company goes under, and there's no records in the stores, there's no promotion, there's no taking it to radio, there's no MTV, there's no nothing. You pick up the phone to call somebody and it's just nothing, you know, rings.
So when you've realized that the company is gone, what do you guys do? Like have a band meeting, like fly to the Concords and figure out what's next? Or how do
you have to circle the wagons, you know, and come up with an alternative plan. I mean, the last time it happened with Queensryche, it was the second, or maybe it was the first time. I can't remember which time it was, but it was in '97. We had just released an album called Here in the Now Frontier, and we had invested everything we had. A couple of the guys mortgaged their homes to come up with enough money to start up the tour. And we invested in new technology at the time, these film screens that we'd been using, but new ones came out that we had to spend a fortune on. And we even bought a giant, I mean, I'm talking a giant inflatable ear, which worked with the album cover graphics. It was this huge ear. It was like, I don't know, 25 feet tall and 40 feet long, and laying on its side, and in the center, like where your eardrum is, there was a movie screen, you know.
Nice.
It was really cool to look at, but it was cost a fortune, and we only got to use it 10 times.
Why only 10 times? Did it malfunction on you guys?
No, the record company went down, and we had no tour and no nothing, you know.
What timeline is this? Where are we in your career when this happens with the ear?
It was 1997, and the band formed in '81. Our first record was '83, you know.
Yeah.
So quite a few years into, you know, making records and touring, you know.
Can you watch the movie Spinal Tap, or does that give you bad flashbacks of things?
No, it's hilarious. So much of it's, you know, very true. You know? In fact, there's that one scene where the guitar player is, I think he's having a conversation with his tour manager backstage, and he's talking about the sandwiches and how the meat doesn't fit on the sandwich. And
problems with the arrangements backstage.
What exactly?
Well, there's some problems here. I don't even know where to start. All right, this
sound check.
No. This look. There's a little problem with the this miniature bread. It's like I've been working with this now for about half an hour, and I can't figure out. Let's say I want a bite, right? You got this.
You'd like bigger bread?
Exactly. I don't understand how.
You could fold this though. I mean, you could
no, then it's half the size.
No, not the bread. No, you can fold the meat.
Yeah, but then it breaks
bread.
apart like
you
this.
Put it on the bread like this, see?
But then if you keep folding it, it keeps breaking.
Why would you keep
and then
folding it?
Everything has to be folded. And then it's this. And I don't want this. I want large bread so that I can put this.
Right.
So then it's like this. Yeah. But this doesn't work because then it's all...
Because it hangs out like that.
Look. Yeah. Would you be holding this?
No, I wouldn't want to eat. I wouldn't want to put it in my mouth.
All right. Hey, exhibit,
you're right.
exhibit A, and then we move on to this. Look. Who's in here? No one. And then in here, there's a little guy. Look. Yeah. So it's a complete catastrophe.
No, you're right, Nigel. But
I mean,
calm down. Calm down.
Look, it's no big deal.
I'm
look,
sorry.
It's a joke.
You know,
it's really.
It's just some crack at university, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
right. It's a joke. It's all.
I don't want it to affect your performance.
It's not going to affect my performance. Don't worry about it. All right. just hate it. Really,
Yeah,
it
well,
does
it won't
disturb
happen
me.
again.
But I
It's
rise above
disgusting.
it.
Honest to God, before the movie ever came out, I heard that conversation happening, but it was with David Coverdale shouting at his tour manager from the dressing room next to mine. And I thought at the time, my God, what a twat. What is he
Yeah.
bitching about, you know? But then after years of touring, I can see why he's bitching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you want things done. You want things done in a way that is right for you, you know? And he has perfect, legitimate reason to be angry about the sandwiches, you know? Ozzy came into our dressing room once and freaked out because we didn't eat our deli tray. And he went on a tirade about it. You know, you must eat your deli tray every day. We bring you a deli tray. You must eat it.
Not everyone could say that Ozzy has actually had to lecture them on their diet, but that's a pretty good one, buddy. I think. Do you
Really?
have a moment? Do you have a moment looking back where you go, "That was a great moment for me"? Maybe not the best, but that was a snapshot in time that made all of this worthwhile.
You know, I don't know how I can answer that. There's so many snapshots, um, so many instances. You in this line of work, you meet so many people, thousands and thousands of people every year. You know, different people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I travel regularly in 48 countries, and there's so many things that happen and so many situations that go on, so many interesting and not as interesting people that you meet. Um, it's hard to pick, you know, it's hard to pick out the details sometimes of what's happening because you get into this sort of like, I'm going to call it survival mode, where you're just trying to deal with everything every day. Being late to the festival, missing the time slot, or all your gear doesn't show up, and another band has to loan you all their stuff, which Twisted Sister did several years ago in Spain when we showed up to headline the show, and they were opening for us, and none of our gear showed up, and we had to use all their guitars, their drums, and everything, even the pink guitar. You know, we had to use that.
Nice.
Yeah, those moments, I guess, make it worth it all. You know, like the kindness of other people and other bands and other musicians who are there to help you when you need it. Like, for instance, I showed up to do several shows in South America a few years ago, and the promoter had hired me to sing my songs with a band that he picked out. And it was really famous, you know, well-known, accomplished musicians that he put together for me. And we
Mm-hmm.
showed up, and none of them knew my music at all. And we had a show the next day, you know, and I was like crazy. I used to have like long hair. I was pulled out all my hair.
Really?
Not really, but I was very frustrated. And they luckily Kiko Loren, who's was the guitar player in Megadeth, he was a Queensryche fan and knew all my music. I was amazed. And he sat all day long and all night teaching my music to these guys who had never even like listened to it, you know,
Wow.
so that we could do a show the next day. Crazy, huh?
That is crazy. And that show worked probably.
It worked. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, something to write home about for me,
Right.
but it got through and people were happy, and, you know, the audience went crazy. All the while, I got to tell you the backstory on this. Okay, so the first place we went to was in Bolivia, La Paz, Bolivia. I didn't do my Wikipedia search on being there. It was my first time there. I didn't know anything about it. So I show up, the plane opens up, the cockpit opens up, and all of a sudden I am sick. I feel like I'm going to die, literally. I can barely walk. I stand up, try to get myself together. I start walking up the gangplank and into the airport, and I'm huffing and puffing, and I get to the top, and my promoter guy's there, and he goes, "What's wrong?" you look terrible. I feel like I'm going to die. I need to go to the hospital or something. He says, well, what do you feel like? And I told him my symptoms. And he goes, oh, no, you have altitude sickness. We're really high here. And we were at 11,000, 12,000 feet, and I had altitude sickness. I didn't know it. So he says, I've got some altitude sickness pills in the car. Make it to the car. They got me a wheelchair so they could wheel me through, right? I get there. He hands me these altitude sickness pills. He goes, you need to take 2. And then in about 2 hours, take 2 more. Well, in 20 minutes, I felt like I was at the top of the world. I felt great. I was, oh, what do I care about, being sick? I'm not even sick anymore. This is great. He goes, oh, they have the really strong pills. Come to find out, they were made from coca leaves. And I was like high as for like 2 days straight. I didn't sleep. And so I'm like bouncing off the walls, and I get there and I find out that my band doesn't know any of my music, and I'm freaking out. I'm calling my manager, get me out of here.
Right. That's hilarious. I have to tell you too, speaking of what you've done and what you've accomplished, recently I was at a medical symposium for patients battling NMOSD or NMO. It's a very rare neurological disease, but they found a pathway to a cure that looks like it might be a blueprint for curing cancer. But it puts people in wheelchairs or can blind them often if they're not on therapeutics quick enough. And I met someone in a wheelchair, and we were doing an interview, and we asked them, how'd you get through it? That moment of being healthy, and then one day things are not. And they said, I was in a dark place for months. And then one day I hear my neighbor cranking a song, Best I Can. And I'd never heard it, but I was listening to it. And when I heard that song, I decided I was going to make the most out of my life. And that's what kept me from committing suicide and from falling apart like a human. Instead, I managed to muscle up and and now I'm an advocate, and I'm fighting for a cure, and I'm going to Washington to lobby politicians, which tells you how tough this person really is, right? But I thought that was just such a great story. And to have it recently going into this conversation was something I thought I'd share with you. I'm sure you get all kinds of inspirational moments from the road where you have some sort of connectivity with people's personal experiences. But that was one where I was like, wow, impressive. Good for you, buddy.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Nice one with that. I mean, I don't know what your favorite moment is with fans as far as what the inspiration of the music or your work has meant to them, but that was literally someone who decided not to put a gun in their mouth upon hearing the song.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier about inspiration. It just shows you what human beings are capable of, when they set their mind to something and they're interested in it enough to pursue it. You kind of take on I don't know, some sort of superhuman quality that gives you ultimate focus and determination, and like the man in your story, he had that. He found the inspiration. Maybe it was from the music he heard, combined with other things in his life, but it pushed him to like pull himself up by his bootstraps, and he just went off in this direction that I wish more people would do. More people would get in that place, and push. Of course, I guess if you look back or you look at it, where the time we're living in right now, it's a fascinating time where, because of this thing I'm holding in my hand, we have this ability, this technology to communicate with people all over the world now. And we are comparing everything in real time now. And we're wondering, like in America, why our healthcare system is so broken, where other countries, it works great and people are getting quality healthcare and they're not having to pay a fortune for it like we do in America. And we're asking those questions. Well, what's happening? Why is America the great not great in this area? Where these ideas wouldn't get pushed to the forefront years ago without the technology of communication that we have now. So, I mean, that's just one area where it's happening, where things are being pushed, but I think it's happening in every area now. Education, transportation, social issues. We're all being pushed to communicate and talk about this stuff, and I think that's a great thing. It's uncomfortable sometimes, to deal with some of these subjects, because we really have to ask ourselves, well, what do we think? What is our opinion on this? And opinions aren't necessarily something that you offer up immediately. Some things take time some subjects take some study time, and some investigative work to figure out what you do believe about certain things.
Yeah. Where do you see us? Where do you see us headed?
Where do I see what?
Where do you see us headed? Like what does the next 5 to 10 years look like? Are we going to get better?
Well, as long as I've been alive, which is 65 years now, people have always said, oh, things are so bad right now, or things are so bad, terrible. Oh, there's not enough work. There's everything's too expensive. They've been saying that all my life. So from my perspective, it's a worthless conversation. Yeah, things always get more expensive. Things are always tough. Okay, so let me just focus on this one issue. Okay, we have this farming industry in America, right?
Right.
Our idea collectively is to spray pesticides on everything so we can grow the most food possible and make the most money doing it. Okay, well, that's poisoning us now. We've realized that, I think, on a grand global scale. We have the highest rates of cancer in the world in our country. So this isn't a great idea, but we also have 350 million people to feed. France doesn't have that. They can be all organic as much as they want. They don't have to feed the people like we do, So how do we strike a balance between scientific farming, getting the most out of it, but also creating the best food and the healthiest food for people to eat in our country? It's not an easy thing, to accomplish.
No, but you're right about that. How do we strike a balance? That's what's key, right?
Yeah,
we'll see.
I think it is.
We'll see, but you're right, man. It's like everyone talks about it being the most dangerous time in the world, and I just say, give us 10 years.
Yeah,
This
they were saying that in the 70s. The first time I went to Belfast, Northern Ireland, it was a war zone. We had to be escorted in by the army with armed guards, and they had checkpoints set up that you had to go through, barbed wire fences and all this. The place was, a war zone. And now it's not.
Yeah,
and they were saying at the time, oh, this is the most dangerous time ever. People are dying and people are getting killed. Well, is that action has just shifted to a different place in the world now,
Right. Listen, I just got 2 quick questions. I'm going to let you go. You're a busy guy. Real quick, what are Geoff Tate's 5 favorite movies of all time?
Well, 5 favorite movies. Oh, so tough.
Or any 5 that are great. If it depends on your day. I get it, what your 5 favorite are, but today I got to line up 5 movies for Turner Classic Movies. What are they going to be?
There's so many fantastic movies, so many, and so many awful things too. Oh, geez. Well, pretty much, the director's cut of Blade Runner.
I worked on that, actually.
Absolutely in my top 5. You worked on it?
Yes, I was at Warner Brothers when we did that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's actually
Brilliant
there's a few different cuts, and I may even be able to find some footage that no one else has for you. But anyway, that's a good choice. What else you got?
One of my favorites. Another Scott film, Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah.
I quite love that film. I like historical dramas quite a bit. There was a movie called now I can't remember the name. Raising Arizona. I thought from a comedy standpoint was brilliant.
Yeah.
What is that, 3?
That's 3.
Getting tough. Geez.
You picked 3 Hall of Fame choices, though. And I just love that in Raising Arizona, where he's like, look, I'll be taking these Huggies and whatever money you have in the rich. The whole
Hilarious.
built around diapers that he actually picks up out of the street at the end. The cinematography in that movie is amazing. That's a funny one to go with, man. And we can really keep it at 3 if I'm putting you on a surprise spot. But those are 3 great choices. Those are 3. I mean, what is it, Vangelis or Vangelis? I'm not sure.
Vangelis, yeah.
Incredible work on that Blade Runner soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. Ahead of its time. I don't even know how he did a lot of that, because it was pre-digital instruments, you know, and it was like analog stuff that he did. And I don't know how he did it back then.
But it really does put you in another place. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I can see you doing, actually. Just where the whole thing, even if you don't have the movie in front of you, but you're playing it like looking out at the stars, you're like, wow, I see things up there. Really good choices. What's up with the winery? And we know there's going to be there's a vault of music somewhere waiting to be finished up, so we'll keep tabs on that. But the winery itself, what's next for that?
Yeah, well, I'm going there next week, actually, to check on things and see how things are going. And I'm also taking, believe it or not, I'm taking my wine to a festival, a German rock festival, where Alice Cooper is headlining it. And it's a wine festival as well. And so I'm taking my wine to the wine festival and doing a pouring of my wines for people, you know, which I've never done before. So that should be kind of an interesting experience. But the wine is going, it's flowing, you know. It's we have this beautiful winery in southwest Germany. It's right on the border of France and Switzerland and Germany, right there in a beautiful Alsatian area. And we do a red and a white, and they're very much, it's a Pinot Noir is the red, and it's a Pinot Grigio, the white. And they're very Alsatian style wines. People seem to love it, you know, and we just keep having great harvests. It's the sunniest place in Germany, so they get the most sun. It's an organic farm. You know, we're talking about spraying pesticides on things, you know, earlier. We don't do that. We have, in fact, you know, like these weeds that grow up between the vines, you know. Most wineries throw pesticides down there to kill the weeds. We let the weeds grow to a certain point where they help with the pollination of the grapes. And then we bring in these little tiny sheep, and the sheep eat down all the weeds in between the vines, and then we move them to the next row of vines, and they do that. And it's kind of like this circle of life, you know. It's pretty amazing.
I feel like you go back in time with this, like you're now on the set of The Duelists or something, and you're walking there's like sheep going through your winery, and then like you like literally are in a studio cranking out new groundbreaking tunes, and then you're walking through your vineyard with animals, and there's probably, is it like a sheep herder too? Is that like a mythical? That's a real job. That's a real job.
It's a lovely couple who actually own the sheep, and they bring them to the vineyard and release them into the vineyard, and they do their thing, and then they round them all up and they move them to the next area of land, you know. Like our winery, our vineyards are kind of spread out over a good mile of different areas. And so they put them in a big truck, and they haul them over to the next area, and they let them go, and they do their thing, you know. And that's what these people do. They herd sheep.
That's unreal when you think about it. And the tranquility, right? Do you think they must be happy?
Well, that's what we're talking about, balance, you know. When you tour and you play music, especially my kind of music, it's very loud. It's a loud endeavor, from everything from traveling in the airports to trucks and buses and the music itself. And then you get into the winery, and it's this calm, peaceful, quiet place where you can actually hear birds and bees and animals rustling, you know, and it's a whole different environment that I find kind of recharges my batteries, you know.
Undoubtedly. I just picture like a bunch of monks moving like huge barrels for you, and like like and like that, like monk music. What is that? The humming. What is it? The choral.
Yeah,
I just feel like
Gregorian chants and all that.
yeah, exactly. And they eat out of like wooden bowls, and they've refused to advance with the time because it's part of the artistry of making the wine. But I got a quick winery question for you off air. I'll save it when we wrap up. But real quick, anything anyone needs to know moving forward? Trips, adventures, what can we post up for people to get involved?
Well, if you're interested, Facebook and Instagram and the internet, geofftate.com. I'm on all those different social medias, and Backstage Pass Travel is there as well. You can Google that and come on one of our trips. They're really, really fun.
Dude, I'm actually excited to try that. I would love. Do you allow people to document it?
Oh yeah, yeah. You can't stop people from documenting anything these days. Yeah.
Yeah, because that sounds like a surreal experience. Like I think that is the next, what is it? Not Spinal Tap movie, because it's obviously an awesome experience, but the movies that filmmaker does is like on the Backstage Pass adventure of like all these exotic places with a
Oh yeah, yeah. Here I
legend.
am. I'm in the Vatican and I'm having sushi with Geoff Tate, and we're talking,
Yeah.
and it's all recorded.
Surreal. Well, we'll post it up where people can follow along and see what's coming up musically, and also, concert wise, we want to make sure everyone gets the latest. I should also remind people, Geoff Tate was one of the first people in on my daughter's children's hospital charity, inner social service charity. And for that, buddy, we owe you a mafia debt. So if you ever need someone buried outside of Vegas, call us. That was
I got a list.
Yeah. Send your list over. Those people are soon to disappear. But in all seriousness, that was a huge thing for a guy like you to do. It gave an incredible amount of credibility to a young woman's charity getting off the ground when she was a teenager. And it propelled her to continue to want to do good. When you get all-star collaboration like that, then you think all things are possible and you move in the right direction. So when you signed that guitar, I knew you were being gracious. You're just a gracious human being. But I remember thinking, like, this is the moment where she realizes she can change the world with a little bit of help. And for you, it's a big thank you. So I owe you one for that. I'm going to ask you a quick question offline, but I want to thank you for getting involved. And I appreciate you being you, Geoff Tate. You're pretty awesome, buddy.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for the conversation. It was fun.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Alex from Quiet Riot.
I'm Dizzy from Guns N' Roses.
I'm Johnny from Typo Negative. I'm Mike from what?
Help us cure NMOSD and with it, cancer.
Go to Guthrie Jackson Foundation and donate now.